Alright, what's up everybody? Welcome back to more 428 Shibuya Scramble. My name is Raven from the Sky, and let's continue. I do not want others intruding into my domain. Accordingly, I do not want to intrude on others. That is how I've lived my life. That is how I've forged my sense of calm, but something has begun to drive me mad. The boundaries between myself and others have started to collapse. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I'll become something other than myself. That is one thing I fear I could never bear. Oh no, you don't. Kajiwara tackled Tanaka as he strode toward the door, and the two men collapsed in a heap in front of the entryway. Hey, Tanaka Barrett, what are you doing? Hold still. Kajiwara ran his bug tracker over Tanaka's body. It began beeping loudly. Aha! Kajiwara pulled off Tanaka's necktie clip. It is a listening device. Tanaka's face went pale. Where'd you get this? Kajiwara demanded. Well, Tanaka trailed off into silence. I gave it to him. It was I who had appeared on the second floor landing. You were listening in? Osawa brokenly. Ma'am, Kajiwara said, would you mind explaining this? For once, he seemed deadly serious. I was barely able to hear a thing. That's what I get for going with something so cheap. I held up a dangling earpiece. When and where did you get that? Earlier today, when I left to do some shopping. And why did you plant a listening device on Mr. Tanaka? Kajiwara asked. That's what I want to know. Tanaka chimed in. Why would you do this, Mrs. Osawa? He was trembling. You were outside emailing someone earlier, weren't you, Mr. Tanaka? I saw you from the window. Emailing? Kajiwara looked into Tanaka's face. I nodded. AI. He came back into the house shortly afterward, and I asked him where he'd gone. And what do you think he said, She was practically gloating, playing to her little audience. She began stalking down the stairs. He said he'd gone to check on something at the lab, despite the fact that he was out in the yard earlier, fiddling with his phone the whole time. So I figured if I bugged him, he might show his true colors and... Enough. Osawa cut his wife off. Tanaka had been emailing Hitomi, of course, but he couldn't reveal that now. I think I get what happened here, Kajiwara interposed. He folded his arms. Your wife thought that Mr. Tanaka was in contact with the kidnappers, and so she planted a listening device on him. The detective peered at Tanaka. Who were you emailing, sir? Yes, that's right, I chirped. Show us your phone, Mr. Tanaka. Let's see what you were really up to. Or is there some reason you don't want to show us? Osawa started to panic. The police checked that cell phone. They found the emails from Hitomi. And if the kidnappers somehow found out about that, Maria's life would still be in danger. But AI, was still relentlessly advancing on Tanaka. Alright, stop this. Darling? She turned to him in surprise. Tanaka was sending emails on my behalf, Osawa said. I asked him to do it. And just who was he emailing? It was... You need to think of a lie fast. It was me. It was someone from work. It was pretty, honey. But sir, Kajiwara was quick to butt in. Don't you have a computer in your study? Couldn't you have sent the emails to yourself? The detective had to choose now of all times to actually be perceptive. I do, but my computer was having problems sending email. I'm not sure what the issue was. Look, the point is there's no reason to worry about Tanaka's emails. It just isn't. I'm telling you. It was a lame excuse, but he had to just keep pressing it. Anyway, I think we can say we're done here, Osawa. He opened the front door. Now, if you don't mind, I've asked Tanaka to run some errands for me. Tanaka gave him a quick bow and headed for the door. Hey, wait! I started to go after him. Just calm down, Osawa barred the way. There's no way he's connected to the kidnappers. Can't you see that? His voice cracked, and she shuddered at a sudden rush of emotion. There, sir, Kajiwara said consolingly. She's just deeply worried about your daughter. I turned around and marched back upstairs. But still, if she is that worried, giving a tie clip as a gift seems a bit. Clothing accessory meant to hold one's necktie in place. In the old days, they were a quintessential part of the salaryman's outfit, along with cufflinks and the company badge. Recently, tie clips have come back into vogue with some older men, now more frequently referred to as tie bars. Kajiwara's muttering trailed off. What do you mean, Osawa asked. Nothing. Not important. The detective waved a hand dismissively, but there had been a definite note of suspicion in his voice. Well, back to work, Kajiwara headed back into the living room. Osawa returned to his study and sat in front of his computer. He had no desire to be in the presence of detectives who now crowded his living room. The Ayakamiki fan forum, where people 40 and over, was still open on his monitor. He reloaded the page and saw that his earlier thread had gotten a reply. It was from Pretty Honey, a regular contributor to Osawa's threads. Username of someone who posts regularly on the Ayakamiki fan forum. Seems to know a lot about agriculture and the police. As evidenced by statements such as if the world were a farm with 100 people, as well as a tendency to post to another site called the 87th Precinct Telecommunity. Incidentally, Shinya Kano's girlfriend Rumi also posts on the 87th Precinct Telecommunity from time to time. She has had several massive arguments with Pretty Honey there, with the latter criticizing the police for not doing their job, while Rumi's insist that police work is very difficult and deserves more credit. Oh, not yet. I'm opposed to the idea of Ayakamiki expanding into America. She should be able to enjoy the success she's earned in Japan without having to struggle overseas. Aya has done so much for us. I'd like her to keep up supporting Japan forever. The message was fast-tuned with the sort of emoticons that a young girl might use. Pretty Honey claimed to be a 19-year-old female college student. Although the community was meant for Ayakamiki fans 40 and over, the settings allowed anyone to post there. The only young woman among the members, however, was Pretty Honey. The thread continued. By the way, have you tried the Aya fortune teller yet? There's a link below. Fortune telling, huh? That's how it started. Should he ask it whether Maria was safe? Practice of determining a person's fortune and luck for life events using cards, horoscopes, and or methods of divination. Most people believe such prognostication when it foretells something good, and don't believe it when the outlook is bad. That's about as much faith in fortune telling as someone should have. If it gave him a good answer, he'd believe it. If it were a bad answer, he wouldn't. It might be worth a shot just for the peace of mind and brain. Click the link, and the Aya fortune teller page came up. He asks you to enter your birth, date, and sex, and then Ayakamiki would offer her advice. Osawa followed the instructions, entering his date of birth, blah blah blah. A few seconds later, his fortune was displayed. You're a very work-minded person. And you hoped for some insight on Maria, but instead it was just a write-up about his personality. You'd never be able to get by without the devoted support of those around you, but probably don't realize that, do you? It's a big mistake to think you can get through all of life's challenges on your own. There's nothing cool about being ignorant. If you don't get over your indifference to the world might start to harbor quite a grudge. Find a way to connect more deeply with the people around you and start living a better life before it's too late. Just do that and you're sure to have a wonderful future ahead. Famous people who got your result? Shinosuke, the head of the Wandering Angels Theater Troupe. He has an interview appointment with Minoru Marikawa at 2:30 this afternoon. Osawa couldn't help but feel that the advice was painfully appropriate. He went back to the forum and replied for Pretty Honey. Nice to hear from you again, Pretty Honey. I definitely know how you feel about Ayakamiki being ours. Still, I'm confident she's got what it takes to persevere and succeed in America. And if she does fail, well, all of us in Japan will be here to welcome her back all the same. Guess this voyage to America I've concocted just has me a little worked up. So I'll click post and lean back in his chair. Mr. Osawa! Mr. Osawa! It was Kajiura shouting from the outside door. First the toilet, then lunch. What is it now? There's been a development in the case. Please join us in the living room. We have important matters to discuss. When Osawa entered the living room, I was already there, looking stern and solemn. Now you're both here, Kajiura said. Allow me to share what we know. We've identified a location which appears to be the syndicate's hideout. You have? What about Maria? Is she there? Osawa exclaimed. We still haven't been able to ascertain whether your daughter is safe. Well, then what were these important matters you needed to discuss? So I felt that we with anxiety rushed to him. The hideout in question is the condominium in Hiro, and it's owned by whom? Mr. Osawa, please calm down. Tell me! Go on without it. Out with it. Kajiura took a deep breath. The residence is now owned by Mamoru Tanaka. Osawa was speechless. He couldn't process what he was hearing. Tanaka? Lies! AI shrieked. Just what are you implying? That Mr. Tanaka is the kidnapper? Where's your plot? With all due respect, ma'am, or proof. Weren't you suspicious of Mr. Tanaka yourself? Well, I suppose, but you did go as far as to stick a listening device on him. Flustered, Ayara threw into a vacant silence. Suddenly, a ringing of the phone startled everyone in the room. Was that Tanaka? No, it couldn't be. There was no way. The phone was wiretapped. The detective wearing the headset nodded to Kajiura, who turned motion for Osawa to pick up. Hello, he said cautiously. Hello. Is this the home of Maria Osawa? The voice was not Tanaka's. Osawa didn't recognize it, but the veil of despair that hung before him thinned slightly. Is this the home of Hitomi Osawa? This time, the man on the phone used Hitomi's name instead. Yes, that's right. The caller immediately hung up. As Osawa stood there, dumbstruck, Kajiura gently took the receiver and hung up the phone. One of the detectives addresses Kajiura. We've traced the source of the call to a cell phone. Also, we've pinpointed the base station used. Inform Director Kuze so he can prepare a team just in case. Just in case? So I asked. What do you mean by that? Kajara frowned slightly. Just because this is a kidnapping case doesn't mean that every phone call comes from the kidnapper. We'll look into it, of course, but I see. Besides, right now, confirming Mr. Tanaka's whereabouts takes priority. Don't you agree? Osawa nodded. Someone should call him, the detective added. I'll do it. I got out her cell phone and dialed up Tanaka. Where was Mrs. Tanaka headed? Kajira asked. One-eyed Osawa Ninli. He eyed Osawa Ninli. I said one-eyed. To work, I sent him to pick up some documents. I don't actually know. To work. I sent him to pick up some documents. A necessary lie. Tanaka was behind the kidnapping. Osawa knew he'd ought to tell the police about the blue minivan and the emails from Hitomi. But still, he just couldn't believe that his assistant really was accomplice. But we have investigators en route to Tanaka's condominium, Kajira said. Let's wait for them to report in. On the far side of the room, AI was squawking in frustration. Despite several attempts, she hadn't been able to get through to Tanaka. Kajira's phone rang, and he pulled it from his pocket. Kano? What's going on? He headed into one corner as he spoke into the receiver. I suppose that'll be alright. What for, though? For a few more quiet words, Kajira held his phone out to Osawa. Hand it. One of the investigators on the scene would like to speak with you. Frowning in confusion, Osawa took hold of the phone. Osawa speaking. Can I help you? This is Detective Kano from the Shibuya precinct. Time is critical, so I need to just cut to the chase here. There was a pause at the speaker who took a deep breath before continuing. Did you give the antiviral drug to your daughter, Hitomi? What? Osawa was so startled, and his voice caught in his throat. What were you talking about? The antiviral research was a top secret. So how did some detective from the Shibuya precinct know about it? Oh, still can't jump. Osawa was bewildered. I'm the one asking the questions here, Mr. Osawa. Did you give the antiviral drug to your daughter, Hitomi? I'm not sure I understand the question. I know what this syndicate is really after. Mr. Osawa. Osawa's mind went blank when he heard what Kano said next. He could give no reply. Mr. Osawa, the detective continued after a moment. Is everything all right? Without really thinking, Osawa hung up. They were after the virus? Did he mean the UA virus kept at the lab? Wait, hold on. The detective had to be wrong about that. Kidnappers must have the UA virus already, otherwise I wouldn't have had to do what I had to do to Hitomi. Do not look away. These are your crimes. At last, Osawa understood what those emails from A were all about. They were a preview of the tragedy that was yet to unfold. Kidnappers probably meant to start the main event soon. Mr. Osawa, Kajira asked. Right. A killer virus is about to be unleashed in Tokyo, and I know who's responsible. Me. A sudden confession caused the detectives on site to stir like a hornet's nest. Please arrest me. Feeling the weight of his crimes crushing down on him, Osawa dropped his gaze to the floor. He held out both wrists. I'll tell you everything down at the station, he said. Anything you need to know? Osawa imagined bodies dropping left and right. There were limits to what might be cured by a small stockpile of antiviral his lab currently contained. If they were unable to quarantine the infected in time, Shibuya know all of Japan might be engulfed in a pandemic that the drug could never stop. A massive outbreak of a particular infection on a regional or global scale. 14th century Europe, a massive cholera outbreak is said to have killed two-thirds of the population. The Spanish flu, yep, remember that? I can't say I remember that, that's way before my time, 100 years ago. Funny because now we're going through COVID. Spanish flu outbreak in the early 20th century, yep, killed at least 25 million people worldwide. And modern advances in transportation, some researchers are of the opinion that the global risk of a pandemic is higher than ever before. You don't say. Spanish flu, now dubbed the flu. Then they came out with, the flu shot, flu vaccine. The flu still hasn't gone anywhere, but it's not a pandemic. Now we have vaccines for the, COVID. And soon that'll be, we'll be back to normal, of course, no time, man. We're the top of the food chain, human race. We were normal after these breakouts with vaccines. We'll be normal. However, it's not going anywhere. It's permanent. That's the only thing. Pandemic's not permanent, but the virus is. Like pneumonia and the flu. The virus is permanent, but the pandemic is not. You can only hope that his complying with the authorities might help stop the spread of the infection before it's too late. Bad ending? Oh! Bad ending. Guilty conscience. The thought of the UA virus devastating fan filled with sorrow with despair, blaming himself. He asked to be arrested, but this only happened because of what Kano said to him. A simple error in word of choice led Osara to a completely wrong conclusion. Kano ought to properly inform Osara just what the kidnappers are after. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank you for watching. My name is Raven from the Sky. If you enjoyed the episode, drop a like and subscribe to help the channel and series grow. Take care, and I'll catch you guys in the next episode. Peace.